Quick, I really wanted to put this video out before the 1 year anniversary of being debt free. And in that rush, you're going to notice some glitching in the background. Apologies in advance. Back to the video.
Have you ever felt like you're drowning in debt with no way out? Stressed, depressed, feeling anxious about every financial move? I know exactly how you feel because I've been there. In today's video, I'll be sharing my journey, the strategies I used to pay off over $100,000 of debt in just 3 years. We're also going to be chatting about the mistakes that I made, but most importantly, I am celebrating 1 year of being completely debt free. And if you're at all curious about what life is like after debt, then you're going to want to stick around till the end of this video. So if you're struggling with debt, I promise you'll find hope and practical tips to help you achieve financial freedom too. Happy Money Monday and welcome back to Dynamics of the Dollar, your go-to channel for mastering your money and building a brighter financial future. I'm KG, and today we're going to be diving into a very special story, my story. I'd like to start by saying I'm not a financial expert. I am, however, an expert on my personal finances. Eliminating $100,000 worth of debt is not easy, and not many people can do it. But with these tips that I'll share with you today, you'll be able to do it too. So if you're struggling with debt, maybe this regular guy could maybe help spark some curiosity and potentially get you excited about personal finances. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll start at the beginning, at part one, the starting point. Let's rewind to where it all began, which actually did start with that iPod in the skit at the beginning of this video, which is actually a lot of fun to make, by the way. Also, side note, that iPod that I bought stopped working literally the day after the warranty finished. I don't think that was a coincidence. Anyways, my debt started with a credit card. I initially spent more than I made, which was minimum wage and at the time was a solid $8 an hour. I always made the minimum payment of $10 a month, but never really did more than that. We'll get into the actual numbers in a bit. My next debt, or I should probably say debts, were student loans. I went to college not once, not twice, but 3 times over 7 years. And these were 3 different colleges over 3 different subjects. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. Although I did learn tons about myself, my social skills, and how to convince my professors it was their fault I was failing, I earned a lot more in debt. Next, I got married. Now, this is probably the only debt that I will never regret. Still one of the happiest days of my life. I got a car because I was over taking the bus. I got braces because I was over biting my cheek and decided to do a payment plan. I got overly expensive pots and pans that I couldn't afford, and then I took out a loan to purchase our first home while still trying to pay off everything else. So let me break this down. Here is a list of all the debts and how much I owed in October of 2020. Okay, whatever. It is under $100,000, so sue me, whatever. Don't actually sue me. Please don't sue me. I always laugh at the pots and pans because, like, what was I thinking? Why didn't I just wait to get pots and pans? But anyway, at the peak of it, it felt like a never-ending cycle of stress and anxiety. But I knew something had to change. Now, being entirely honest, luck did play a part in this, and I'll explain. I was fortunate enough to continue to work through the pandemic because of my remote work. This meant I saved roughly 5 hours a day of commuting. Not only that, I was barely spending on my car. I was no longer spending money on food the way I used to when I worked downtown Toronto, which actually sparked my love for cooking. And in my opinion, the most important thing was that I had time. Taking advantage of that time, I really started to take a hard look at my finances, tracking every expense and creating a realistic budget. The first step is always and going to naturally be the hardest step, but it's the most crucial. Big shout out to my friend, let's just call him Joe, for helping me spark this journey. Now that's a summarized version of how I got into debt. If this story is even slightly relatable, you're going to want to hear about how I got rid of that debt, which goes into part 2, creating a debt repayment plan. So again, here's a reminder of all the debts from earlier. Remember, luck did play a part in this, but unfortunately, I didn't really take full advantage of it for about 5 months. So I continued to work, I continued to pay my bills and debts the way I was doing before the pandemic, but I noticed I had extra money in my checking account. This is what sparked the idea to create a budget. I'll be honest, my first few thoughts were, sweet, extra money. I can clear my Amazon cart. I could finally subscribe to those pickles of the month. But I paused and thought about the cloud that was hanging over me. So I made a simple budget spreadsheet which is free, by the way, in the description below. It's the exact budget sheet that I made and that I've been using for years. Once I had it all in front of me, written down, and it was a clear picture of my finances, I created a debt repayment plan. Honestly, after researching for this video and other videos that I've made, I'm realizing I didn't really use a snowball or an avalanche to pay off all the debt. I was kind of paying them all equally, and I'll explain more right now. I swear. So with the extra money that I was saving from commuting, I used it to completely wipe out those pots and pans. Gone. It felt amazing to get rid of one thing, which is something everyone should do, which is to celebrate the small things along the way. Anyway, I took that $80 and added that to my student loan repayment. No reason as to why, honestly. I just thought it was the biggest debt I had, so I just did it. We'll skip ahead a few months. I'm still paying my debts, and now it's tax season. Turns out I was contributing maybe a little bit too much, and I got a nice tax return. I used that same mentality as before, except I changed it a bit. My mind started to think, this is not my money. I began to put a little bit more and more focus on this cloud that was over me, and I really wanted to take advantage of every penny that came my way. So I put that entire tax return plus all the extra money I had and wiped out my braces. Braces gone. Now, I'm not going to go into crazy detail for every single one, but I am going to talk about crucial milestones here. All of these debts were receiving a little bit more every month because of the money I was saving from working at home. Skip ahead to 2021, tax season. After a full year of strict budgeting and putting every dollar I could into debt, I started to learn more about interest rates. So if you don't know, basically interest rates are the cost of borrowing money. And as you can see, I borrowed quite a bit. I just used Google. I Googled some debt calculators to see when I would pay off each of these debts and when I would be entirely debt-free. I also have a debt calculator that I made in a spreadsheet down in the description below, so if you want to use it. According to the calculators at the time, going at the pace that I was, with everything that I thought I was doing right, feeling absolutely amazing about everything I had accomplished up until that point, the calculators told me that I would be done paying everything by 2048. At the time, that would have been 27 years. I felt like I was at the bottom of the mountain again. Seeing this, I could have gone one of two ways. I could have gone, what's the point? And just continued living my life. Or I can go the route of, I need to beat this thing. So in my eyes, I went with, this is absolutely unacceptable. So again, I used that calculator, but this time with the knowledge I gained from studying interest rates, I punched in the entire number, but with the lowest interest rate that I had. The reason I did this was because one of my favorite words to learn at the time was consolidation. Instead of paying 25% there and 17% over here, I pooled all those debts together and chose my lowest interest rate, which at the time was my line of credit at around 9%. So I called up all the places that I owed money and consolidated all of them into one account. I'll be honest, seeing all of it in one place was actually a little bit overwhelming at the beginning, but it did make things extremely simple and easy to manage. I should also note that my job at the time paid commissions, and again, visualizing that cloud over me was a huge motivation to actually do well at work. So because I was doing well at work, my commissions were higher, and I would be able to put more towards those debts. So every single penny I made that was outside of my budget went straight into that consolidated debt. And again, I kept that mentality of tax returns, not mine. Commission, not mine. This had to be my mentality in order to succeed at this goal. By this time, I had created my own debt calculator, which again is in the description, and I would check on it every so often. Okay, I'm lying. I checked it every single day, and sometimes multiple times a day. This really pushed me to be creative. Think of several different ways I can lower this debt and pay it off sooner. I started a small side hustle where I became a certified nutritionist. I absolutely loved helping people reach their health goals, but that's a whole other story. I used every dollar that came in from that business and put it towards the debt. Suddenly, after 2 years of absolutely grinding, you know what the calculator said? April of 2024. It's not a stretch to say that I had changed my life. I put myself on a different timeline. It went from 2048 down by 24 years in just 2 years. But with everything I had learned and how far I've come, I still wasn't satisfied. It wasn't good enough. I wanted to finish it a little bit sooner. So I sold so many things online. If I hadn't touched or used it or thought of something at home in more than a couple of months, sold. Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, eBay, all of it gone. I adjusted my budget ever so slightly over the next few months, which I'll bring up shortly, but I was in the home stretch. And in August of 2023, I paid my last debt bill. There are always going to be ups and downs. This part of the story is obviously a huge up, but there were a lot of speed bumps along the way, so it's important to tell you about some of the downside that you may face when paying off debt. Part 3, making sacrifices. Paying off nearly $100,000 in 3 years required significant sacrifices. I cut out dining out, I canceled subscription services, saying no to friends when they wanted to hang out. I had this mentality of debt over everything and everyone. Looking back, there are definitely some things I would maybe adjust. If you're on a similar journey or looking to start on a similar journey, then you could expect to make some very difficult choices, like not going out on your birthday, working more. The amount of entertainment you consume will lower and your focus will be on one thing. On the other side, you learn to prioritize your needs over your wants. You may find joy in living a simpler life. Part 4, staying motivated. Staying motivated is going to be different from person to person. Going back to my nutrition experience, everyone had their own version of their why. Why are you looking to change? Why are you looking to grow or adapt? Staying motivated for me came down to one thought, or more so one question that I would ask myself. And again, going back to my nutritionist days, I would ask this of every single client. If you continue on this path, where will you be in 5 years? Then 10 years? Do you like what you see? That was my motivation. I didn't want to live with that cloud over me anymore. I wanted a life after debt, after the sacrifices, after the changes to my life and making adjustments. Now, 1 year later of being debt-free, credit cards are my best friend. I take advantage of everything they have to offer to get me things like free travel. Now, I know how this may seem, but this isn't to gloat. I lived most of my life in debt and never thought I'd ever be able to say I got free flights. This is to give you an idea of what is possible. My wife and I have gone on 3 vacations and have 2 more planned for the rest of this year, and I have paid nothing for any of those flights, not a cent. I no longer fear appetizers or desserts or tipping at restaurants. I know how anxiety can kick in when a bill comes or when you're looking at a menu and you're looking for the cheapest thing. And honestly, shamelessly, sometimes I'll purposefully just look at the most expensive things on the menu, knowing that I can get it if I wanted to. I don't get it often because I still don't feel like comfortable spending that kind of money on certain foods. Maybe at certain restaurants it's worth it. You do get what you pay for sometimes. Again, I don't always buy it, but it's nice to look at and know that I can if I wanted to. And in my opinion, best out of all of this, we actually get to plan our future, which most people can't do because of the stranglehold that debt has on them. Polls as of last year released that 46% of Canadians are carrying some sort of non-mortgage related debt. So I understand how you could possibly feel with all of that debt looming over you. But 1 year later, I no longer waste money on things that don't matter anymore, like buying every single ad I see on Instagram or loading up my Amazon cart. I shop less. I pay for good quality clothes that will last me a while instead of trying to purchase name brands to impress my friends. I donate. I never thought I'd ever be able to comfortably say that I donate, and it's part of my budget. 1 year later, I can confidently say that I'm still me, but with an open road in front of me instead of congestion. And I want you to know that following simple tips to eliminate debt, even if it's little tiny things here and there, you can do the same thing. The life you are living under debt can change. I'm an example of that. If you found any value in today's story, if you found it at all helpful or motivational, like and subscribe if you'd like. But my guess is that if you made it this far into the video, this story may be relatable. So my ask of you is to ask questions. Go into the comments, ask for tips on how you could eliminate debt. Remember, no matter how overwhelming your debt might seem, there is always a way out. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and believe in yourself. And I'll see you in the next video.